Welcome back to another episode of Stand on Guard. Hope you're having a great Tuesday. Beautiful weather here. No, it's not a heat wave. It's called summer. But big story, Conservatives win that Toronto St. Paul's by-election. When I come back, we'll discuss what that means, what happened, and two other incredibly outstanding stories.
So we are in a very precarious position in this country. We need political change, but we also need the resolve to resist.
Yes, please like the station. Thank you so much for your continued support. Let's up these support numbers. Let's get the subscriptions past 26,000, onwards to 30. I really appreciate your support. Just like us if you can so we can beat the YouTube censorship, just like we're beating Trudeau censorship every day. Looks like the message didn't work in Toronto. Yeah, I wrote that this morning for the Post Millennial. Conservative candidate wins Toronto Parliament seat that Liberals held for over 30 years. And of course, that was Carolyn Bennett's old seat. She used to be the health minister. She was until January when she resigned her seat. She was the mental health minister. And she was a lousy mental health minister because she thought there was no problem giving free drugs out to people all across the country. No big deal. That had nothing to do with causing addiction. Yeah. So she didn't seem to be big into rehab. She seemed to be big into harm reduction, which is really quite a fallacy. But she won that seat in the last election by 24 percentage points. And last night it went down to defeat for the Liberals. Leslie Church, who was a chief of staff to Chrystia Freeland. I just love this. She was a staffer on the Hill for years, and her last job was as chief of staff with Chrystia Freeland. Don Stewart, the Conservative, won. But this is interesting, to say the least. And I want you to listen to this. I think this really does say it all about why the Liberals lost. And leave it to Chrystia Freeland to define why they deserve to lose.
This is an important by-election because it is about a choice between two visions of Canada, two sets of values. I really want to encourage people to vote for our outstanding, hardworking candidate, Leslie Church, our hardworking Liberal candidate, Leslie Church. What she stands for is the values we are talking about here today. She stands for a vision of Canada, which is about investing in Canada.
Whenever a Liberal says investing, translate that to mean spending taxpayer dollars. Because this was an election about choices, as she says, between the Liberals spending your tax dollars on things you don't want and the Conservative idea that you should be allowed to spend your money as you choose. And the government should mind its own business and get out of yours. And that's what she means when she says invest. It's all about the government telling you how to spend money and making sure that you are tied to the federal government.
Investing in essential industries like our car sector, being sure that Canada can own the podium, and at the end of the day, a vision which believes in a Canada that plays as Team Canada, where we...
Another code word, Team Canada, means Team Liberal. It means dividing all other Canadians into subgroups. It means identity politics. Team Canada, that's the Liberal.
All work together to support and defend the national interest, as you are seeing here today, with unions, with industry, with government.
There's the Liberal vision for Canada. Increasingly socialistic And ultimately, that leads to communism. I used to think that was a gross exaggeration. I don't anymore, because this prime minister has exhibited nothing but totalitarian tendencies, as has this minister, whose grandfather used to work for the Nazis. And have a look at where this seat is located. I love
that is Leslie's vision. That's the Liberal vision. That's why I'm really calling on the people of St. Paul's to go out there and vote for her, because the alternative is really cold and cruel and small.
There's where the riding of Toronto's St. Paul's is. Right in the heart of Liberal Toronto. Now, is this symbolic? Is this indicative of the Liberal fortunes? Does this suggest the downfall of the Liberal government? I think this is a very bad omen for Liberals. A good omen for freedom, because it means shot through the heart, as this Stephen Taylor says in this X post. I just think this is classic. Let's listen to what Nick Nanos, the CTV pollster, had to say about this election. Very interesting.
Bottom line here, because we got a good take of what's happening in the riding. When we say Liberal stronghold, there's no way to overstate that. Like, Carolyn Bennett held this riding in 2011 when the Liberals were essentially decimated across the country. How big of a deal would a flip be here?
Oh, it would be a massive deal, because I think she won by 24 percentage points. If the Conservatives win this riding, or even if the Liberals win by a squeaker, it will be completely devastating for the Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, and for the Liberal Party of Canada, because that means that every Liberal riding is in play, because if the Conservatives can be competitive in downtown Toronto, that means basically there's not really a safe seat in the country.
What does competitive look like? Like, if you were to put a number on it, is it somewhere within that 10-point range, for example?
Well,
or?
I would say if the Conservatives are anywhere between 5 percentage points of the Liberals, that's basically a toss-up. That means that they've gained like 19 points. They've closed a 24-point advantage that the Liberals had to 5. So that's a game changer, and that speaks to the fact that the Conservatives will be more competitive. So I think the expectations for the Tories are low. Like, no one really expected them to win. Them being competitive, that'll be the big question, because if the Liberals have a good showing today, it'll probably relieve a little pressure and stress on the Liberal team. But if it gets close, there'll be a lot of soul searching within the Liberal Party in terms of policy, in terms of leadership, and just right from top to bottom.
Yeah, top to bottom. So this could be the beginning of the end of Justin Trudeau. And politics is a funny business, and I've been watching politics for even before my adult life. I started watching politics in a very interested way as a teenager. So I've been watching politics for decades now. And there's one thing I've learned about politics is that you can never predict things based on one or two events. And I'm not going to say that Justin Trudeau's finished here with it, because everything I know about Justin Trudeau suggests he will stay on as leader no matter how unpopular he is, because he believes, as a narcissistic individual, he believes he's indispensable, not just to the Liberal Party, but to the country. He honestly believes that about himself. His opinion of himself is that high. So is this going to set him back? Maybe not personally. But is this going to convince enough of the party bosses, enough of the caucus, enough of the cabinet that Justin Trudeau has to go? Possibly so. And that could well happen. So Canada, the politics are interesting, but so is what's happening in the world today. I woke up this morning and I said, wow, events are just taking place at a breathtaking speed. And of course, big story of the day is Julian Assange is walking free. Now, I'm sure most of my viewers are saying, hallelujah. This was a guy who exposed corruption and they spat on him. He is a shell of a man today because of the incarceration, because of the false accusations, because of the imprisonment, because of living in an embassy, because of being an international pariah because he believed in free speech. And it's incredible to me. 15 years of detention by so-called democracies. But these democracies are so corrupt, they don't believe in free speech anymore. And it's absolutely astounding. And I can't rejoice enough. Now it's a weird story. He's going he's on his way, probably there now, to the Marianas, which I didn't even realize the United States still had a colony there. There was a huge naval battle during the Second World War in the Pacific Theater literally it was called the Great Marianas Turkey Shoot, where the Americans were shooting Japanese Zeros out of the sky. And it was a huge victory for America. I guess America just took over the island. So they still have a presence there. So Assange is going to the Marianas to plead guilty to espionage. And supposedly, and this is the deal, he's going to walk free after that because the United States will give him credit for time served, which is at least 5 years, more like 15, if you want to be realistic about it. So I hope this terrible journey for a man who really wanted to expose corruption and wrongdoing is allowed to be free again. And this has been a freedom of speech story, a freedom of speech struggle from day one. But listen to this incredible clip from Julian Assange. If you want to know why did the United States want this man under a thumbnail, why did Mike Pence say today, this huge traitor to MAGA and the Trump movement, the Trump presidency, who thinks we should be fighting in Ukraine for the rest of eternity and we should continue to foment foreign wars? Why did Mike Pence say this was a miscarriage of justice, that he's going to walk free? All you have to do is listen to this clip here of Julian Assange, and you know where this man's heart and mind is.
Because the goal is not to completely subjugate Afghanistan. The goal is to use Afghanistan to wash money out of the tax bases of the United States, out of the tax bases of European countries, through Afghanistan and back into the hands of a transnational security elite. That is the goal, i.e. the goal is to have an endless war, not a successful war.
That's why he ran from the United States for 15 years, because he nailed it with that statement. There is no desire for victory in Afghanistan. Just like I came to realize very late in life, there is no desire for victory in Vietnam. I supported the Vietnam War. I wasn't alive when the Vietnam War was raging. I was alive at the very tail end of the war, but I mean, I had no conception as a child what that war was about. In later years, when I made political decisions, I supported the Vietnam War and said it was a noble cause. It never occurred to me that the United States didn't really want to win in Vietnam. They wanted to keep the war going because people were getting rich off of that war. The military-industrial complex that Dwight D. Eisenhower warned Americans about wanted that war to continue and continue and continue because it made lots of money, and the object was never victory. It was continuous war, just like Afghanistan. So that's why we were there so long. And as a military member in uniform, I supported everything we did in Afghanistan. I thought we were doing great things. I really believed in the mission because I thought there was a mission. It wasn't until years afterwards I realized there was no mission. There was no objective here. The objective was not peace. The objective was not really to create a viable democracy in Afghanistan. The objective was to create chaos and to continue that war and other wars throughout the Middle East and Africa. And of course, that's the objective in Ukraine. Keep the war going, kill as many Ukrainians as possible because they don't matter. And of course, the Russians are evil, so let them die too. It's not costing NATO a single personnel. And we're getting so much bang for our buck. And the munitions industries are making billions of dollars, tens, hundreds of billions of dollars off of this war. That's what Afghanistan was about. That's what Ukraine is all about. And that's what wars in the Middle East continue to be about. They continue to be about people dying so people can get rich. That's something that took me years to admit and acknowledge because I'm still proud of my military service. I was an officer in the Air Force and I defended Canada. But that's what the military should be about, defending your country, not attacking other people's countries and keeping wars going forever and ever and ever. So people keep dying and coming home in body bags and other people keep getting rich off of it and telling you, good job, keep fighting because I'm getting rich. So Assange being free is a victory for free speech. It is a real victory for free speech. Now, I want to go on to another story here because I think this is really, really important. Just incredible. This is another piece of breaking news from late yesterday. Tommy Robinson, the British activist, gets arrested in Calgary. Holy crap. He gets arrested in Calgary, supposedly because he didn't tell the Customs and Border people that he had had some legal problems in his home country. And of course, he had been arrested for free speech violations. And of course, that's what he's really being arrested for here in Canada, because he's a free speech advocate. And Canadians, at least the ones in control of this country, the government of Canada doesn't like free speech. And this is a fascinating little clip because this is how incredible this is. He gets arrested by the Calgary police. They put him in the back seat of the cruiser. And I'm sure anyone who's been in the back seat of a cruiser knows that that's a very dispiriting, demoralizing experience. And you never want to be there. But he's back there saying, what the hell is going on? And the police let him use his phone to tape the conversation. Listen to this.
Can I ask you who's made the order for my arrest? The Ministers Delegate. Who's the Ministers Delegate?
This is incredible.
One of the officers.
One of the what?
One of the officers.
One of the officers. Is that government?
So
Just
a director with the CBSA.
A director with who?
CBSA, Canada Border Services Agency.
A director with the CBSA has signed the order to have me arrested.
Signed an arrest warrant.
An arrest warrant. Okay. I'm guessing now what, and you look to now what, arrest me, you've left all my stuff there, my passport, but you're going to deport me?
No, there's a whole procedure that we have to go through.
There's a whole procedure,
Right.
which takes how long?
So he recorded this conversation, and these guys, these cops, admit this is a political arrest. They've been ordered to do that by the CBSA, Canadian Border Security Agency, which of course goes under not Homeland Security, goes under the in this country public order. No, sorry, it's Dominique LeBlanc, and so it's essentially under his jurisdiction. So it's a political decision. So the cops are admitting this is a political setup. This is incredible, absolutely incredible. So he's being arrested because he's a free speech advocate, and he's actually, I think he was invited to speak in Canada about Bill C-63, which is the Online Harms Act, which is, of course, another piece of raw censorship coming from the Trudeau government. Yeah, it's Minister of Public Safety is what I'm trying to think of here. That's who ordered this through the CBSA. Dominique LeBlanc, the Minister of Public Safety. The Ministry of Public Safety went down to the CBSA and they wanted this guy arrested. So, I mean, this is absolutely outrageous. It's incredible. And he comes to Canada at the behest of Rebel News, and he talks about Bill C-63, the Online Harms Act, and that's not what they want him to do. So ironically, he's allowed to go to Red Deer, but he can't go any further north to Edmonton. And he can't cross the provincial boundaries from Alberta. Weird. And the police have taken his passport. But I mean, you can still cross provincial borders in this country by car or by foot without a passport. So this is so bizarre, but he's under a court order now. He can't go anywhere else in Canada. Absolutely outrageous. But this is the country we now occupy. This is the country we live in. It is out of control. The government is out of control. We are losing our freedom. And I'm not going to go on about the Online Harms Act today, but it is still possible this law will pass before the next election on October 2025. And we have to be vigilant every day that the House is in session to keep criticizing this act and to keep stopping it from moving past first reading to second reading so we can buy some time. Because once you get a bill passed, it's very difficult to repeal it because the next government's reluctant to do that because suddenly that bill becomes a vested interest of so many people. Suddenly that becomes a human right. And the government doesn't want to be seen to be attacking a piece of human rights legislation. And as twisted and distorted as that is, when applied to Bill C-63, which is nothing but raw censorship that actually will prosecute people for thought crimes and put people in jail for life for so-called hate speech. That's how the next government might look at it. And they could drag their heels on this. We need this bill killed as soon as possible. And we need this bill never to see the light of day. But that's why Tommy Robinson was arrested. I'm going to turn to my last story. You never hear me say anything nice about Liberal MPs, do you? Well, I'm going to say something nice about on the PN MP, Chandra Arya. He's the only MP that I know of who has criticized a moment of silence that occurred last Wednesday after question period. You might remember if you were watching it with me. The speaker announced, let's have a moment of silence now for this Sikh terrorist. He didn't say Sikh terrorist, but that's who he was. He was a Khalistani terrorist in Canada, and he was killed. Trudeau thinks the Indian government ordered his assassination. I say you live by the sword, you die by the sword, and that's probably what happened to him. But this guy had links to the Air India terrorist attack. This guy was a scoundrel. And MPs stood up to pay homage to him. They gave him a moment of silence. That is disgusting. And this is the only MP who says he thinks it's disgusting? Moment of silence limited few great Canadians. Nigel, not one of these. No, he wasn't. And where the hell were the Conservative MPs? Why were they standing up with this guy, with the Liberals and the NDP to honor this guy? Why don't they have some guts at these key moments? I'm very happy there was a Toronto MP elected as a Conservative. I'm not very happy when Conservatives do this kind of nonsense and let us down and toady up and suck up to extremists and terrorists because they think it's going to buy a few votes. That's unacceptable. And I always tell you, I'll say the nicest things about Pierre Poilievre and the Conservative Party when they say the right things. When they fail us, I'm going to criticize them because I'm not carrying water for any political party. I'm fighting for truth and I'm fighting for justice, fighting for free speech. And I'm fighting against standing up and having moments of silence for people like this. That's not happening in my Canada. Anyway, I take my hat off to that Liberal MP. He's not going to get a single favor from Justin Trudeau and probably from the next leader because he violated Liberal Party policy of don't ever criticize the leader. Don't ever criticize a decision made by the party. So good for him. If that doesn't sit well with some of my listeners, I'm sorry, but I've got to call a spade a spade. That's what I'm here for. That's what I'm doing on this station. So incredible news. It's happening at breakneck speed. The next thing we have to keep our eyes on are the parliamentary elections in France, where Macron's party, President Emmanuel Macron, who wanted to start a war with Russia and send French divisions into Russia. He's in third place. His party's in third place in the parliamentary elections. Just incredible. And we're going to keep our eyes on that. And the so-called far right, the Common Sense Party of Le Pen, is in first place. So it's exciting what's happening around the world right now. And we're still on the brink of nuclear war, of course, because of the idiocy displayed by the United States and NATO. Not thinking that you can't just have a little war with Russia. That's not going to evolve into something catastrophic, because it will. And somewhere along the way, NATO lost its brains. NATO lost its ability to think, and it's being run and governed by a lot of low-life lunatics who cannot think to save their lives. And they are pushing us into a war with Russia, and they don't give a damn about the consequences, the ramifications, and the fact that it's going to eat up the world in a fireball of nuclear destruction. They don't care. Anyway, that's all for today. I'll be back again tomorrow. And I think this is going to be the plan, is to do an early broadcast throughout the summer from 9 to 10, or starting at 9, between 9 and 10, and talking about the news of the day. And I think that's what we'll do without question period happening. So, and it's going to be live, and I invite your comments. And I am going to start adding the comments tomorrow. And I'll be responding to your comments. And this is how we're going to be doing the summer here at Stand on Guard. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you think it's the right decision. And we can always do more shows on whatever you think we should be doing, focusing on. Thanks for your support. This is the highest viewers I ever got on a live broadcast. God bless you all. And we'll be back again tomorrow.